So I just got out of the cinema from watching Barbie, and I actually don't know where to even start with this movie. Because going into the movie, I was already worried, because I know when it comes to movies with big companies backing it, and with big studios behind it, they can end up playing it really safe, or they can push a completely politically charged message, which divides fans even more. And with the current climate of the world, and how divisive everything is nowadays, especially movies, and how political every movie seems to be, I couldn't help but be worried going into this movie, especially given the fact that I'd already seen some online backlash for the movie, but I'd also seen people defending the movie, and it was already becoming an all-out online social media war, and I just didn't actually know what to expect going into this film, and I was really worried. And now, even after seeing the film, I'm still slightly confused and slightly conflicted, because for the first half of the movie, I was sitting there going, oh no, this is another politically charged film, this is pushing an absolute political message. And then for the second half, I started to think that maybe this was a satire, and that this was making fun of the political climate of the world, and how divisive we all are, and how we continue to use words like the patriarchy and matriarchy, and how we continue to fight, and we can't unite under this outrage culture. But then I remembered one interview clip with Margot Robbie in which she does actually explain how they were poking fun at modern day culture, and weren't actually pushing a negative message against men, but were actually trying to search for true equality. And while it may not have translated on screen to everyone, at least this one quote kind of saves the movie in my head.
Because if you look at Barbie Land at the beginning, like, the Barbies are on top and the Kens are kind of disregarded, so I was like, well, that's not equal.
No, right.
So whatever the opposite of misogynist is, actually, Barbie's like, so towards the end, when they balance things out, then it might be feminist, but actually it's like beyond feminist.
And that's where I'm honestly really stumped, because if this movie was a satire, then it's kind of funny and kind of smart and really interesting. But if the movie was taking itself seriously, then it is just the ultimate woke propaganda machine, and so I don't know where to even sit on this movie. I don't know what they were actually trying to get across here. Was it a satire, or was it taking itself seriously? I honestly want to know from you guys down in the comments what you actually think, because I'm still in two minds. And that's what's weird about this movie, because when you review Barbie, you have to talk about politics, because that is the whole part of this film. That is the entire point this film was made. Politics is integral to the story. Identity politics especially is integral to the point of this movie and to the message they were trying to convey. However, the problem lies with the fact that people online are outraged about this film. They're either attacking it or they're defending it, so I don't actually know if this film actually succeeded in getting across what it was trying to say, just given the fact that people are so divided about this movie, and given the fact that me watching the movie by myself, I was flipping between two scripts thinking, no, this is a satire, and then thinking, no, this is taking itself seriously, and so I was going back and forth between hating the movie and actually loving the movie, and so I'm still really confused when it comes to the messaging. And so I guess if it is a satire, then it didn't do a good enough job of getting that across to every viewer, given the fact that so many people online are just attacking this movie because they think the movie actually took itself seriously. And if it did, then yeah, sure, it can have political attacks because it is a political message, but if it was making fun of outrage culture as a whole and people still attacked it, I mean, that's even more funny. So like I said, this film is just really confusing. And it kind of represents everything wrong with modern Hollywood today, given the fact that everyone always attacks every single film, and every time a movie comes out, they seem to always be divisive politically. And I remember the days when a movie would come out and either people liked the movie because it was a good movie, or they didn't like it because it was a bad movie. Nowadays, you always have two sides of people agreeing with the political message of the movie or disagreeing, and that's starting to get annoying, that's starting to get old, and given what's going on around this movie online, this represents that entirely. And also given the fact that the whole plot of the movie are two people fighting each other over different political sides, it's even more funny because that ended up playing out outside as well. So all in all, it just represents everything wrong with modern Hollywood today. But upon further thinking, this movie has to be a satire, right? Because you can't mention patriarchy and matriarchy the amount of times they did and actually make jokes around patriarchy if it wasn't a satire. Surely anyone taking themselves seriously with a script wouldn't write patriarchy that many times and wouldn't have characters absolutely obsessing over patriarchy and talking about it in business meetings. I mean, that is a little weird, so I don't think the film was taking itself seriously, enjoy. And so if it truly was a satire, then I actually love the movie. But let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, because I'm open to all opinions and all interpretations when it comes to this film, because like I said, it's just so confusing. And also, given the subject matter of this movie is Barbie, and Barbie always represented the social and political climate of the world, and I guess the quote-unquote gender norms of the world, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that they made the Barbie movie to represent what was going on in the world and how ridiculous identity politics has become. Given the lazy race swaps by Disney for their old movies, instead of just telling an original story of someone from their culture, which would be true diversity, they just go and do surface level race swaps. That's ridiculous. And then that starts online wars, and people continue to get angry around all these films, and people continue to just get outraged by all these movies, and it's further dividing us instead of actually uniting us, which is meant to be the point of diversity. And so it wouldn't be hard to imagine that, given the fact they were talking about Barbie, and Barbie always represented the social climate of the world, that they maybe did just want to poke fun at where we're at currently in society and how ridiculous it's all become. But when you move past the political aspect of the film, which is pretty hard to do given the fact that it's really on the nose, you have to admire Greta Gerwig's directing ability, especially what she can do visually. Because regardless of what your opinions are about this movie and the message it's putting, it is a visually spectacular movie. They really paid a lot of attention to these small, intricate details of the set. Everything seemed pinpoint perfect. I mean, it was just such a beautiful film, so aesthetically pleasing, and the way that they were able to make Barbie Land look honestly like a toy society, yet also be believable, and you're able to actually see that that world really exists without being taken out of it, given the fact that it looks really fake. Even though it does look fake, it still looks real, and that is definitely a hard thing to pull off, so a lot of credit has to go to Greta Gerwig for what she was able to do visually. Also, during the music numbers, those were really cool as well. The colors in the background. Overall, it was a very beautiful film, like I said, regardless what you actually think about the movie. And on top of that, another aspect I loved was Ryan Gosling's performance. I thought Ryan Gosling was absolutely spectacular when it came to the charisma that he brought on screen. He is just so charismatic, and I've never seen him in a role like this before, and honestly, it seems like the Ken role was built to perfection for Ryan Gosling. I've seen some people online saying that he's too old for the role, and a lot of people said that he does look a little old and it's a bit jarring, and I can sort of see that. I kind of agree. However, just through his charisma and the way he portrayed Ken, I still found it absolutely enjoyable, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting nominated for this role. Do I think he should be nominated? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's probably one of those roles that deserves to be Academy nominated, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does, because it's just so different for Ryan Gosling, and he really nailed the performance, and you could really empathize with his character. Even when his character became horrible, you still empathized with him, and that's the telling of a good performance. On top of that, Simu Liu was actually quite good. Regardless what you think of him outside of acting, he is a pretty good actor, and I think this film showed that. How he was able to play the annoying guy with a really annoying smile and really leaned into that aspect of himself was quite funny, and I think he really nailed it, because there are so many times you see him on screen and you just get so aggravated, and I think he carried that out really well and gave a really stellar performance, and that was something I honestly didn't expect from him. And also, going up toe-to-toe against Ryan Gosling, being in all the same scenes pretty much, it must be hard to actually show your charisma and actually look good as an actor when you're acting next to Ryan Gosling, because he's one of the greatest actors living right now, and Simu Liu's only at the start of his career. So honestly, a lot of credit has to go to him for his performance. He really did a good job with this one. And then there are so many other aspects when it comes to this film and themes that it touches on that I'm sure went over my head, as this kind of is a movie made for girls. I'm definitely not the target audience for the Barbie movie. It definitely wasn't made by people like me. It's kind of like a movie made by girls for girls. So of course it touches on so many themes that I honestly just wouldn't even notice and kind of don't care about, to be honest, as I wasn't really a Barbie person growing up. I played with them, but not in the way I guess you're meant to, and I don't really know much about Barbie culture, so I'm sure there are lots of themes and references that went over my head, but all in all, I'm still kind of conflicted about this movie. I don't know what it was trying to say, I guess, with its message, and that seems to be the most important thing when it comes to this film, is it is trying to get across a message, and I think I know what it's saying. I think it is a satire. However, given the fact that that so many people online are outraged at it and aren't seeing it as a satire, it kind of confuses me. Maybe it's not a satire, and if it isn't, then I don't really like the movie. So it's a weird one. It's kind of ridiculous for me. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it was a satire, or do you think it was taking itself seriously? Let me know down below in the comments what your thoughts are. Like I said, I'm open to all perspectives and all interpretations on this one because I'm just so conflicted. All in all, I hope you guys liked the review. I hope you guys liked my video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all on my next video.